Shorted Podcast, Season 1.
Hi everyone, this is Roshina Zehra bringing to you another episode of Shorted Podcast. Today we are joined by Sayani Gupta, who shares with us her relationship with social media trolls, the importance of hustling in her work, and how she approaches feature films and short films.
I'll start with a heavy question, okay? It's about
Wow.
it's about FOMO short. So now this show, in so many ways, is the first of its kind in India. It has these four women who are talking about their sexuality, their relationships, their sex life, and they're not at all like they're owning it. They're owning that space. Now, while the show has been received very positively across the board, and with good reason, of course, there's this little part of the viewership which is kind of pissed off, which is like feeling threatened maybe by the idea of these women, which is turning around and saying, कि, oh, sex के बारे में बात करेंगे तो यही तो होगा इनके साथ. Like if a character has a problem, they're like, oh, of course, these women will face this problem. So
Yeah.
my question to you is that, when you come across these things, or maybe just a random nasty comment from a faceless troll, but how do you reconcile this, or how do you react to it, or do you even acknowledge it, or do you like नहीं नहीं ठीक है ये सब लोगों बोलने दो मुझे अपना काम करना है, like how do you approach it?
I think that's a really good question. So I'll tell you, there are a couple of things about it. Okay. So what you're saying is a little section of the population, although it's small, but it's very aggressive, right? So it feels like there is a very, very strong sense of opposition. And it's very funny because we've actually been observing this and analyzing it, we meaning, us girls and, the producer, creators, we have our, WhatsApp groups, and we actually happened to share, and there was a lot of positive, and there were some very, very serious, like letters and messages that a lot of people, like tons of people write to us every day. So some of them which are really very sweet and moving and, quite overwhelming, we share that. And some of the negatives also we share and we discuss. And what we realized was you can see a pattern on Twitter or some on Instagram. You can see a pattern of the people. Now we know, we can see their faces or some of the DPs which are actually not their faces, which are, for example, so one guy who was being very, very crass on Twitter, and so his DP was Shahid Kapoor's photo from Kabir Singh, and his name was a very bhakt kind of name, and his language was all, obviously, filled with cuss words, and it's literally a pattern, and it's not an anomaly. It's not a rare, unique case. Most of them are actually, and you can feel that these are men or, young boys, in their 20s or whatever, from the way they talk. And we've realized that this is the same sector of people or same group of people who worship, films like Kabir Singh. So obviously they are going to have a problem with FOMO shots. And honestly, when we started out, to make FOMO shots, especially in the season 1, the intention was very strong. And the intention, which is why I became part of it, and probably most of us became part of it, was that there was a dearth of female representation in the mainstream. And urban women who have control over their lives, who are educated, who are extremely career-oriented, who are ambitious, who have complete agency over their lives, be it their love lives or careers, sex lives. And that is something that needed to be represented in mainstream Hindi cinema or, in the mainstream narrative. So it was very, very clear why we wanted to make a show like this. And it wasn't, one of those things, even after the first season that had come was, why do you have to show drinking and smoking to show empowerment? The point is that I completely agree with that. I hate cases where, you're showing women drinking and smoking to show empowerment. The point is not that. These women happen to drink and smoke like a lot of people and a lot of people, women in the urban quarters. But there is no taboo to that, and there should not be. And that's the point of it, that women who have chosen whatever they want to do in their life, nobody else can criticize them and judge them because they think it's wrong. It's nobody else's business to pass judgment, and this entire thing of moral policing. So that was one of the main reasons why we wanted to make the show. And with these comments, what we realized is that because anything that women do makes people so uncomfortable, that it's more that is why you need a FOMO shot and the likes of FOMO shots even more. If we don't start the discourse and the dialogue, things will never change. Nobody, the moment you're talking about women, everything becomes a moral issue. Okay? I feel, but it's the same people who have no problem even to watch with a lot of adulation men who are abused and abusers are extremely violent, let alone drinking and smoking, because if you're a man, of course you have the birthright to do anything you do, But if it's a woman, how dare she does anything? Obviously, that is that is just completely reflective of the society we live in, and that's why you need a FOMO shot.
So there's this one very interesting thing that you said, Abhi. You spoke about these patterns, that how there are these specific characters on social media who have a certain pattern of, attaching certain things in a particular way. Now you, as a woman, Shani, who's a public figure and who is always in the, you're in the public light. Anybody can just look you up. Anybody can go on your Instagram or whatever. Do you ever feel like maybe a little extra vulnerable than, say, as opposed to a male co-star when you're putting out things on social media, especially if it's an opinion on gender or whatever? Like if it's a stance, do you feel that hesitation कि ये तो पलट के सीधा मुझ पे or on my sexuality they'll attack me? Do you ever feel that?
Till about last year also, we kept thinking, kitna darenge yaar, But the fact there is a very, very strong fear of violence. And honestly, that's nothing to, I'm very, very honest about my opinion about things, but not trying to be mean to anybody else, but just putting my opinion, forward. So I've been, quite moved for that. I've been quite, sometimes my mouth is too big for my own good. But having said that, I have, and there's times, when you absolutely can't keep quiet, right? It's very volatile, and there is a sense of fear. And I do think twice before I would send out a tweet or write my tweet. You feel a little vulnerable. Not all the time, but sometimes you can feel a little more vulnerable. Yeah, but that has nothing to do with work or my opinion about gender and stuff like that. That, come on, if you can't face it. And there's so much. There's a lot of times when people are like, "Oh, we're going to unfollow you," and I had actually put out a post saying, "Please unfollow me. I don't want bigots to follow me."
Yeah.
I don't really give a shit about
be my guest.
Follow me or not. Yeah. If you think I'm going to not post something because you're threatening me to unfollow me, that's
Sayani Gupta on this crazy Instagram with these hundreds of thousands of followers cares about what you think and what your unfollow means to my account. Yeah, of course.
No, you're giving yourself too much importance, first of all.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, it's really, people, I don't know why some people think that, or maybe they're just trolls and they don't mean it, or sometimes maybe they mean it. But, when you write something, they're like, and not only to me, to so many people, you have taken money from this guy, or the Congress is paying you, or AAP is paying you, or somebody, or either you are getting paid to put out your opinion, or you will have to be scared whether or not your followers will start unfollowing you. It's just so crazy. Like, why don't you just while still not saying that somebody can have an opinion irrespective of anything.
Okay. So my next question is a bit more, generic and diverse, which is about that, you have this huge body of work from what I've seen of it. It is so diverse. I mean, if there's you in a short film like Bunny, which personally is one of my favorite performances of you, um, there's four more shots. Then there's Poshamba. There's a film like Akhone. So it's just crazy, like the kind of roles that you're doing. Like one second you're someone, and the next second you're someone who's completely like opposite of that person. So how do you, constantly like prep yourself from this to this to this to this? Like how are you mentally switching on and off, and if it's draining for you, or how are you just, like keeping your head together, and for the lack of a better word, how are you reinventing yourself like every time in a new role?
I don't know how. It just happens. No, I really don't have an answer to that, actually. This is the only way I can be. I can't do one thing. I get bored very, very, very easily. I'm a scatterbrain. I have to be doing multiple things. And when I'm shooting also, I can't, it's very boring to be the same person every day. So I actually like jumping from one set to the other. And
does it ever get exhausting? Ke yaar, ab ho gaya thoda.
I mean, it gets exhausting. It got exhausting, actually. Like for a little more than 2.5 years, I didn't get a single break.
Okay.
So I actually shot for 2 years continuously with, I think, like 10 days off.
Okay.
That too in the middle, like one day, maybe I had to travel, maybe I had to, like it's not like I didn't get a single day to sit and do nothing and rest.
Yeah. For 2 years?
Or just for 2 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So, so which was great, that's good. I mean, it's amazing. And I am a workaholic. No matter what kind of work, I just like working. There was not a sense of, I'm so tired, I can't do it. Like, even my friends and people who know me and who see me doing this, they keep telling me, my God, like, just looking at you exhausts us, like, even my co-actors and all, like, all the girls would, in fact, I remember all the girls that in promo shots would keep telling me in different ways, in their own ways, Shani, take a break, like, don't do this to yourself, But that's the way I like it. I like doing like 5, 6 flights a week, and going from set to set and just running around all the time. It's almost like a high. It's almost like an adrenaline thing, and I like it. But it just got exhausting a little bit. I think last year towards July. I told my managers, I was like, you have to give me like a week off. I can't. Like my brain started like feeling frozen, like when you feel brain fatigue, like I was like, I can't do it because I'm just so exhausted in my brain, not physical exhaustion, like just. So then I took off and I finally took a holiday after 2.5 years. But yeah, so.
Where did you go?
Well, I went to, actually, I had a lot of plans.
Okay.
But I ended up going to Thailand. Because Thailand was not one place I wanted to go to ever. I had not been actually for some reason.
Okay.
Till then, but I discovered Thailand. It's stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. And I was, I was snorkeling and I was staying in these tiny islands and very, very like quiet things. So I went to Thailand. I went to, and then I went to Singapore to meet some family. So and also, I mean, the food was great. It was really lovely. And I really enjoyed just being alone, and that was really
just away
lovely.
from the noise and
Yeah. Also, I mean, right now that's why even now I'm really, in fact, when this quarantine started, the first week I was so happy. I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And only because I don't get this time alone, right? I mean, I don't get to be, I don't get to do nothing and still, just be. And I think that's such a, what should I say? Like that's such a precious thing, which now I realize, So.
Are you doing any of your chores? Like all of us plebeians, like
everything. Everything.
Are you washing your dishes?
Everything.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So my next question is also, following from the previous one, that how you have, tried different forms of the same medium, right? Like you've done short films and you've done feature films and now web series as well. So do you, like when you're approaching a project of, whichever of these three categories, is there a difference in your approach or how you prep yourself, or like how do you interact with the three different kinds?
No, there is no difference.
So
Absolutely none.
okay. In preparation,
I mean,
nothing at all. How you how you embrace your character.
There's nothing that, I mean, you don't do the acting differently because it's a short film. You just, acting is just feeling, achieving truth in a moment and being. So that the basic doesn't change. Now, I mean, for example, if you're a singer and you have a 2-hour gig, to a 4-hour gig, to a 20-minute gig, your singing is not going to change, ना? I've seen people कि बहुत ना ऐसे कुछ बना के बोलेंगे to make it sound like अरे very exotic, but actually नहीं है यार, बहुत आसान काम है, बहुत आसान काम है भाई.
Sayani, it's easy for you to say now that you've mastered it and you've figured out your technique. I'm sure नहीं है.
You can never master it.
Closer, at least you're close to mastering it. चलो. There we can agree to disagree.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can't even master it after you've practiced for 40 years, I mean, even Nasir can't say he's mastered it. Obviously, you can't master it, but I mean, it becomes, you enjoy it, right? So it doesn't feel like it's something, matlab kaam nahi hai na, it doesn't feel like work. Okay. But having said that, I'll tell you, the thing with longer formats, and I mean, that's only because of, with TVs or shows, is that you just have to, it's a little more tricky to keep the emotional continuity because it's just like 3 or 4 films that you have to continue your character with. But, I mean, apart from that, and it's sometimes very, confusing in terms to remember, what actually happened before this, or this episode, what happened. And that used to happen more with Inside Edge. Okay. Because there was a lot of things were happening. It was very plot driven. And with my character, because I have something different in every episode and every match. And one episode would have 3 matches sometimes, So what happened in that match? This is the strategy we had. So it was almost like mathematics. So that needed a little more concentration to remember, but you have people on set, who are there to help you, the writers and the director, everybody. So that's totally fine. So obviously, like a short film is like a little. I think it's much more. You're just much more relaxed because it's a short film, and it's easier. It's just like 20 minutes, right? And itna hi hai, that window. So I guess, but otherwise I don't think it really changes. In terms of the performance, it doesn't change. Okay. In terms of your craft, nothing changes.
Okay. My second last question. Now, with all this quarantine and lockdown and everything, and we still don't know what's the end, how are we going to fight coronavirus? We don't have a roadmap set out for us just yet. So, for actors and filmmakers, and जिन लोगों को set पे होना है, जहाँ तुम्हें you have to be with a group of people and your technicians or whatever. What do you think is the way ahead? Like as an actor, what do you think? Like what is gonna come out of it? In terms of filming and shooting and making things.
We don't know, yaar. We really don't know. The good thing is that I make a lot of really independent films. Okay. Which have like 4-5 people crew. So that's definitely possible. So I think I can still continue to make that once lockdown opens. But no, we will be starting to shoot promo shots whenever the lockdown opens. So I really don't know what is everyone's saying and discussing things, but nobody knows yet.
Okay, so the uncertainty stays. Okay, and my final question. This is for the young actors and the young filmmakers who will be reading or hearing this interview. If you have to tell them a little about your, early struggles, or how you got to the point that you are right now. So, how did you get into this space, and how did you make this footing for yourself? That, like, if you were to give them any tips or advice or anything at all.
I think you have to. You got to hustle, man. There's no other way than hustling.
Okay.
And when you hustle, you just have to remember that. I mean, I just auditioned. I kept auditioning. I still audition, but the few initial years, I would just go and keep knocking doors at every studio where there was an audition happening. So it's just, you just have to keep doing it and just do every audition with, your best integrity and intent, and you never know what comes out of what. So you might not get that specific job, but somebody else might see that audition and cast you for something else entirely, and that happens all the time. That's happened to me so many times.
Do you have an interesting anecdote there? Like you auditioned for something but got some other interesting project that we might know of?
So I was very close to getting selected for Ye Jawani Hai Diwani for Kalki's part. That was actually my first ever audition in Bombay.
Oh, okay.
And and I remember Nandini, and later I think Ayan had quite liked my audition. And so the team, I don't know if it was Ayan or team at Dharma, so I got, or Nandini, but I literally kept getting calls for other films in Dharma for other auditions. Actually, very funnily, none of those films took off. None of those.
Okay.
But I remember there was a film called A to Z which never got made. There was a film that Sonam Nair was going to make. That never got made.
Okay.
There was one more film. So I think there were 3 films where I kept getting sent to, and then and other people started calling me saying, oh, so and so has recommended you and stuff. So it really is about so many times. Yeah, I mean there are ads that I've given one ad and I have not gotten it, but that taste somebody else is seeing because he was friends with the other director, and then he has asked me for some other ad. Like so many times.
Did you get an important or any favorite or memorable role like this? Like you didn't even know it's coming your way, but it happened, and then you just loved it.
I think no, in the sense that I know I got cast for Jolly LLB 2 because Subhash Kapoor had seen one ad of mine.
Okay.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Or he told me he'd seen one interview of mine and he wanted to work with me. And I was like, oh, that's sweet.
Okay.
So yeah, so there were those kind of things. Yeah, I can't remember anything now, but I'm sure there are. If I later sometimes suddenly it'll come to my mind. But I have very bad memory. I can't remember most things. So I don't even remember what project I've done. What else? Sometimes I don't remember. On IMDb, I'm like, oh, ye film kab kiya maine? I have very bad memory. So I don't remember a lot of times. So many times I've worked with people and obviously I don't remember them.
Okay.
Because I'm very bad with names and all. But yeah, there are a bunch of short films I think I have no memory of doing, but I know they exist somewhere in somebody's computer.
Okay. So the closing thought is just hustle. Put your head down and just keep hustling until you get there.
Yeah, and also another thing that I always say that keep your dignity and self-respect in that. Don't beg. So when you enter a room, know for a fact that they need you as much as you need them. So don't plead, don't beg, don't feel like you're in dire need, and don't use the word struggle, because if you get out of your house telling yourself, I'm going to struggle, you will never make it. It's not a struggle. Everyone has to go through a kind of journey in every field, every discipline, every kind of, job that you will do. So, and that's the life of freelance person. So don't go out saying, oh, I'm struggle karne ja raha. Then, it's such a defeatist attitude to begin with.
Yeah. So
just go out there and, take it as a challenge and enjoy the experience, because, it's also quite cool, when it's, in hindsight, it's cool. You can't obviously do it for many, 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 many years. It will get grueling and frustrating. But yeah, don't, and especially girls, young girls, I always say that never, ever, ever feel desperate. That's a complete no-no. Carry yourself with dignity, put your, keep your spine straight and head high, because you don't owe anything to anyone. And it's always important to take care of yourself and protect yourself, So seem desperate, don't seem you need it at any cost. You don't. What you need is respect. What you need is dignity, and nobody can take that away from you. So yeah. So
that's a wonderful piece of advice. Like for a young person who might be feeling lost with their attempts. And it doesn't apply to just acting, it applies to everything.
And if you think you're going to sleep around your way up in any profession, then God bless you.
Thank you for joining me today in this episode of Shorted Podcast. See you next time.